up, man? How are you?
Good, Paul. How you doing?
Good. Appreciate your flexibility today. I had a little bit of an opening emerge out of nowhere, so like, well, maybe I can squeeze this in.
Yeah, it totally worked. Absolutely. How's the holidays been?
Good, man. We had my mother-in-law in town for 2 weeks, and now we're just kind of back to the grind.
Okay. How's the mother-in-law in town?
Fine. From Michigan originally, so she flew down, get out of the snow a little bit. I'm in the Raleigh market, Raleigh, North Carolina. And so, she works from home predominantly, so she just kind of set up shop at her house, and she went back Saturday.
That's good.
Otherwise, low key. How about you?
We had like a pretty big party on, well, I don't want to say big. We had like 20 people at our house, had it catered and all that stuff for Christmas night. It was cool.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we had a guy that cooked for us, prime rib, man, it was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good meal.
Yeah, the in-laws. My wife can handle a couple days with her own mother, and that's about it. Yeah, my in-laws
we're kind of coming to that realization now. It's probably not going to be 2 weeks again. But, last 2 years in a row, and you just sort of realize, like, as you get older, just how particular people become, and there's really nothing you can do about it. They just are what they are, and they like what they like, and and in some instances it's personality meshing, and some it's personality clashing, and it's hard to have one without the other. So
that's exactly what happens. She comes into town, and she likes things her way. Right? She's got, I think she's 80 years old, and she definitely has a set way about how things should be done. And when Ashley doesn't do them that way, it's like the two of them just, they got 50 years of life together, all that. For me, it used to, stuff used to bother me, but now it's like, whatever. But man, Ashley, it gets to her. They're coming to stay with us in March for like, I think 10 days maybe. Always adventurous.
Yeah, one of our big things is like boundaries around parenting. Like, both of our parents are divorced, so we have 4 sets of parents, and some respect the boundary and they don't try to parent our kids for us. We have a 10-year-old boy and an 8-year-old boy, so they're 4th and 2nd grade, and so they're naturally mischievous, and they get into stuff, and they're finding their preferences and their personalities, and it's like Dunning-Kruger on steroids. Like, they think they know everything, and so they don't ever want to be told what's what. But there's this natural, like, we're millennials, she's a boomer. There's a natural, like, parenting distinction, just generational divide there, and often our parents will be fine and have appropriate respect for our boundaries, but then it just sort of like creeps in, and it'll be like, okay, I got it. Like, we're good. We're fine. You don't need to do that. Thanks, but no thanks. So that was a sort of a blip every couple of days. It'd be something that's like, just stop it.
Yeah. My mother, she passed away in 2012, but our daughter was alive she was alive for the first year of our daughter. And she was definitely, I remember I got into it one day with her at her house. We were there on vacation, and the baby was crying, and we were like, okay, she just needs to sleep. And my mother couldn't handle it. And it was like, oh my goodness, it was like World War III there.
Yeah. Always fun. Yeah. Well, you always get these like controlling dynamics too, like, how they were raised made them who they are now. And I think as we've gotten older, we've respected and understood that more as like they're just a natural product of the environment they were raised in. And there's things that are just sort of unintentional expressions of like DNA level, quirks or whatever. And so you stop taking such personal offense to it.
Yep.
Yeah, she can't help it. It's subconscious, and it is what it is. So we just
when I was 30, it was like
move on.
Right. Yeah, when I was 30, it was like, screw that, right? I would be all like, and now it's
no
like,
respect.
Yeah, I just got all right. Just grant them that they have their own experience and all that, and
That's it.
So yeah, man, you're crushing it up there, huh?
We're doing all right. Yeah, it's we opened Cary estate planning. It was just me at the very end of 2018, like fourth quarter is when I opened. So we just celebrated 6 years, and we grew it from just me to we got 42 people on the team now.
Damn.
4 offices throughout the Triangle, the Raleigh area, and we also have a financial planning firm. So we Carey Financial Planning is a fee-only fiduciary RIA that we opened a couple of years back. We have 2 full-time certified financial planners on that side to basically just work with estate planning clients for their financial planning. So we did that very intentionally to be fiduciaries across the board, so we would never have financial conflicts that would kind of muddy the water. But it also means we don't sell life insurance. We don't have financial incentives for product selection or like that. And then we also serve as trustee for our clients. So we, when we do that, that's sort of a later commitment, but it will allow us to obviously serve clients more meaningfully, more hands-on, high-touch fiduciary engagement. But then we'd also manage the money in-house. So it's sort of a double benefit for the clients, additional revenue opportunity for us. So it's sort of a win-win.
Yeah. So did you to open up the financial end of the practice? You hired people who knew what they were doing there. Is that what kind of happened?
Yeah, and I have one of my good friends from law school is an ethics attorney in North Carolina. He actually worked for the state bar for about a decade before he went off on his own. And so I've always been very proactive about professional responsibility and ethics research before getting into these kind of adjacent opportunities or more exotic business opportunities, to make sure that I'm not going to run into too strong a headwinds and spin wheels and start for no reason. And so it became very clear early on that, and I think you asked this question in one of the groups earlier, is like, can you get paid for referrals? In North Carolina, you can't. And it's actually really hard to even have referral fees with other attorneys. We have what's called co-counsel engagements. So if you refer, for instance, we refer something to a personal injury attorney, the only way that we can make money from that referral is if we are co-counsel on the engagement, and we can only make a percentage relative to our production on the case, or management or responsibility for the case.
That's the same in Florida.
And we have to disclose all that in writing, like ahead of time. So any referral that could result, this could result in a fee, whatever. That's exclusively attorneys. We can't make compensation off of referrals to third parties for any reason. The exception to that is when you're referring to yourself for non-attorney services. So I took the Series 65, which is basically becoming like a fee-only, advice-only type advisor. It's also the only securities license that doesn't require a sponsor. So if you go to take your 7 or 6 or 63 or 66, you usually have to be attached to a broker-dealer, or they're like sponsoring your candidacy to take that test. The 65 is often what will happen in states to become what's called a solicitor. So some other states, they do allow attorneys to receive compensation for referrals, and without actually performing the non-legal services themselves. And so the financial advisor can register you as what's called a solicitor, which is basically business development. And in some solicitor engagements, you can make a tail, like 10 to 30% of ongoing revenue off that client. And it's essentially just business development compensation. But they have to disclose it in all of their disclosures, whether it's an ADV or whatever form filings they make with FINRA or the SEC or the state, so that their clients are aware that a third party is being compensated for the referral. Yeah. And so we're not allowed to do that in North Carolina. So the only way that I could open up that secondary revenue line was to create my own financial advisory practice. And so trial and error and fits and starts and all this kind of stuff, I attached to a big corporate RIA called Mariner Wealth Advisors, which is like a top 5 RIA under their 1099 division, which was called Mariner Platform Solutions. It basically was attached to the Mariner ecosystem, but it allowed you to privately brand. And then you effectively did a revenue share with Mariner to use some of their backend resources, as much as like 30% top line gross revenue for things like portfolio management, financial planning, all the risk and compliance and custody and all that kind of stuff. You basically would just attach to their system and then you would manage the relationship and bring in, the actual engagements. It became clear probably within about 6 months that wasn't a good fit, because they were still using kind of legacy custody platforms like Fidelity, and the paperwork and onboarding was becoming very onerous. And it also became clear that I needed to not be the one that was doing all of it. So kind of in a 1-2 step, we detached from Mariner, filed an RIA filing in the state of North Carolina for Carey Financial Planning to be our own independent RIA, registered investment advisory firm, and then hired a CFP like 3 months later. The primary CFP, his name's Michael. He's actually the husband of our lead probate attorney, Amanda. So he had already been in financial planning practice for, I think, over a decade. So liked the opportunity, wanted to be able to kind of start something from scratch. And we did that. Now we have, I think, 25 households, about 15 million under management. And we have a second certified financial planner named Amy, who just joined us in September.
Wow. So when did you
5-month backlog now, like a wait list.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Good for you. When did you start that up officially?
We actually filed the paperwork 2 years ago. So it was the end of 22. Okay. And I sort of experimented with Mariner for about 9 months prior to that. But I took my Series 65 in November of 21. So I was about 3 years into the estate planning practice.
Okay.
And a lot of it is, if you've spent any meaningful time networking with financial, professionals, you realize like a lot of them are just bullshit artists. They're just salespeople. They don't actually do anything. And a lot of their clients don't know any better. And so having now the knowledge and understanding of advisor compensation that I have now, you start realizing that that's the industry. Like that's mostly the industry. It's a brokerage. And so you kind of have this very passive engagement with client service. There's really not a ton of value. It's really just asset allocation recommendations, and I'll see you next year. And then they make an advisory fee, plus there's fees coming off the products that are being recommended, because they're usually like mutual funds that have 1% expense ratio. So a lot of clients will maybe meet with their advisor once a year, not really get any actionable advice. Most of the meetings with those advisors are additional sale opportunities. So like, have you thought about long-term care insurance? What about this annuity? That kind of stuff. And then they end up paying a lot more in fees than they realize. So it's usually closer to like 2.5%, rather than what people often think is just 1%. So we came in wanting to specifically not be like that. One, because, when you attach to a brokerage, you're beholden to them. So you kind of have to do everything that they want you to do. But two, we wanted to not ever have our fiduciary hat taken off. So it's just, we always wanted to be a best interests in all things forever. Mostly so that we obviously could have a consistent feel and client service across all aspects of the client engagement, but to be able to just rub their faces in it in terms of comparison against the market, to be able to stand on that soapbox and really lord over the competition.
Yeah.
And it's been really successful. And it's incredible, like how that could even be a blue ocean strategy. It is. It's just, that's just how bad the industry is.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something that we just started like talking about like last week. Like, okay, should we get into, and what you're doing sounds really appealing.
Yeah. And we're going to, so there's a couple avenues that will spring from this. One is to open up our RIA to other advisors, to other attorneys. I think the proliferation of these doc prep shops like Trust and Will and all these, do-it-yourself integrations with financial advisory firms are going to further alienate those centers of influence. So advisors are going to stop referring to estate planners, and estate planners are going to stop worrying about stepping on toes and go get their licenses and start offering a family office model. And so we are going to do really two things. One is open up our RIA for additional attorneys to join, to basically bring their clients on board and essentially be like that solicitor, but in kind of a different way. And then the other is to open up a coaching platform, like a course, to basically say, this is how you do it. If you want to open up this family office reality within your own environment and just sort of dominate your market, this is how it looks. Because I believe it's the way it needs to be, especially on the fee-only fiduciary side.
Yeah, right.
It's not hey, Joe, go learn everything you need to know about being a financial planner. No, it's you be the business owner and then bring people in who are experts who are actually going to do a hell of a job, servicing the clients that you already have.
Yeah. That's essentially how we've
feedback on that. Like the ability to do literally all things under one roof, but to not cut corners on it, to not sacrifice on quality, to not sacrifice on fees. We're going to be competitive with everybody. I mean, very easily.
Yeah, that's how we've been kind of successful, is just we've hired the right people, people who knew what they were doing in the different practice areas. And, when Ashley started, she knew business law. That was it. Right. And then we just got the right people in the different areas, and have just kind of gone from there.
Business law is tough. I used to do a ton of business law and M&A, like on a fixed fee, but they're just such different marketing realities. Like it's just harder to penetrate the wall that is the insulated business owner. So we get the business work, but it's through the estate planning side.
Yeah, I think a lot of ours comes from there too. Now, it was kind of the opposite. When we started, we were doing business law, and then they needed estate planning.
Yep.
And now it's kind of the reverse. What percentage of your revenue is coming from the financial stuff?
Well, they're separate firms. They're separate entities. So,
for some reason, I was thinking that they were the same. Okay.
No, Carey Financial Planning is a separate LLC. It's a RAA registered in North Carolina. And then Yokabitus Law, DBA, Carey Estate Planning, separate entity.
Got it.
We also have Planwell Legal, which it's a separate law firm under the same entity that does, it's like a downsell referral. So we launched Planwell 3 years ago to basically be the other end of the spectrum, to basically service people who are priced out of the market, or who have like really unrealistic expectations around pricing. But yeah, that firm alone is probably going to do, it should be about $500,000 this year, just on, does this, fee range. So this is all product of intake, right? You sort of figure out where your friction points are and your sort of off ramps and intake. And then you either acknowledge them and say, it is what it is. I don't want to be all things to all people. Or you take an opportunity to create a separate service delivery that is not ripe for confusion. So it's the same entity, but everything else is separate name, separate team. I mean, there's a full-time attorney, full-time legal assistant on that side, separate website, separate CRM, separate drafting, everything separate. Separate phone line, everything. But often our Carey estate planning intake is always the jumping off point. Like we have 5 people on our intake team that generally are pre-qualifying people. And part of our screen is a fee screen. We basically say like, our fee range is from X to Y. Is your budget for planning in that range? And if someone says, well, no, I was expecting like $1,000. Say, well, sorry, this is not going to be a good fit for you, but we have a sister firm that we refer to named Planwell Legal. If you want to, explore that, it's a cheaper outcome, more budget friendly because it's more truncated, more simple, more automated, no physical presence. It's all virtual. And then the fees are like $450 to $1,800 instead of, $2,000 to $8,000, $3,000 to $9,000 in the new year. But yeah.
Oh, you're moving them up.
Yeah.
Good.
It's moving up, but also value, right? So we're adding more. We've at this point done a lot of do-it-yourself funding instructions. We always do the legal side of funding, so deeds and corporate work, but we usually will just hand deliver the funding instructions for things like IRAs and life insurance and that kind of stuff. And so we're going to be moving our price point for like a married couple spousal trust plan from $6,000 to $7,500. And doing done with you funding. So scheduling like a post-signing funding meeting, like with the attorney on the matter to basically, it's like half an hour video meeting where they screen share, pull up their brokerage account, walk them through the TOD language. They screen share, pull up their IRA, log in, walk them through the TOD language, that kind of stuff to add that additional level of value. We're going to beta test like an ultra premium option too, like a $15,000 plan. That is like, you just work with me. It happens inside a week. We come to your house. We do a remote signing at their house. I meet them at the bank, all that kind of stuff. Or like the prime attorney, whoever that is, and see what percentage of the clients bite on that. But yeah, more touch, more done for you, more speed.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. What's the name of the lesser price one?
It's called Planwell Legal.
Planwell. When did you start that up?
April of 21.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually on one of our goals for this year is to get something set up like that. And we are kind of a little bit unsure the best way to do it, right? Because it's like, okay, do we do it under at-cause law? Then it's kind of weird. You can't really do it under at-cause
That's where
law.
everybody fails. So two things have been sort of the leading try and fail opportunities with downsell. One is a DIY platform. That's basically like, oh, you can't afford us. We have a DIY engine, right? You put your stuff in and it just spits you out documents, and it's $159. Not worth it. The price point's way too low, and it creates brand confusion. You're basically saying, well, why would I pay you $6,000 if I can just use your DIY engine for the same documents?
Yep.
So that's not the discussion you ever want to have. The second is to basically try to create a plan well internally that's essentially this, oh, well, it's our team, but it's different.
Right.
And then try to walk through the nuance of how it's different. We specifically didn't want to have that conversation. So we created this separate brand, and it's wholly separate. We barely even comment on the fact that it's affiliated.
Yeah.
Because people don't care. But
No.
when we don't, we didn't split it out as a separate entity, mostly for like insurance and payroll reasons. So I didn't have to set up new benefits and all this kind of stuff. But it has allowed us to be able to do cold outreach from Planwell to CEP clients because it's all under one roof. So it's not a cold solicitation from a separate entity.
Okay.
So now we have this list of disqualified Cary estate planning leads that would be prime qualified for Planwell, that if there isn't a one-to-one transfer over, which we often do, we'll schedule a consultation like on the Cary estate planning intake side and be like, if you're interested, I can schedule a consultation for you. It's like a 30-minute attorney counsel. It's very straightforward. And so we'll have, probably like a 60% carryover. So the other 40%, if we don't do anything with them, we're just hoping that they reach out or like remember. But otherwise, we can have somebody from the Planwell team basically reach out and say, hey, I know you had a conversation with Maddie or Kim or whoever, and they thought maybe Planwell would be a good opportunity for you. Let me tell you more about it. This is what it looks like. This is what it is, what it isn't. We often compare them as prime rib versus hamburgers. It's like your only customization is, do you want cheese or not? Like that's it. And so we're talking like, basic will plans, probate avoidance, joint trusts, probate avoidance, individual trusts. No complexity, very straightforward conditional logic, either outright, held to a certain age, that kind of stuff. That's it. So it's very highly automated, very simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you don't do any signings with them, right?
No, we actually sell signings through Cary estate planning. So if they want us, so if it's in the local market, which we generate leads all throughout the state for Planwell. If it's in the local market, meaning somebody local reached out to Cary estate planning, their cost disqualified, then we charge $150 for them to come to a signing with Cary estate planning. It's an additional ad hoc add-on kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The attorney that's under that, are they, do they do any work for Cary estate planning?
Nope.
Just straight there. Okay.
Yeah, and they're sufficiently busy. I mean, it's in the early rounds, the first few months, it was me given basically 8 hours of capacity a week. And then I hired, these are basically like first or second year attorneys. We are now, so this is sort of the other opportunity with having a Planwell is it's also now a recruitment path. So we have interns that will start with our Cary estate planning team. When they graduate, we can hire them and place them with Planwell to start getting them sales reps. And those are easy sales, right? They're not like highly complex strategy sessions. They already know the pricing ahead of time. This is basically just, are you ready to move forward or not? But it's 1,000 reps. I mean, they're having significant, sales opportunities over the couple of years that they would be over there. And then after two or so years, they can be promoted over to Cary estate planning and then start doing more meaningful, complex, like elder law, special needs planning, tax stuff. And then we're creating our own fulfillment engine. It's sort of this almost like a university setting. Secondary aspect, right? Not the point, but it became a very valuable aspect of creating that reality.
God, it's genius.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
like it. And then, now Adam is the primary attorney. He's actually in the process of being promoted over. We have a new attorney starting on Thursday to start with Planwell. His name's Sam. But he graduated in 22 from the law school that I went to. I went to Campbell Law in Raleigh here, and that's been a solid feeder. And we also, bring on. We have a Camp Lejeune probate pipeline of about 10,000 cases.
10,000?
10,000, yeah.
We've got like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, well, it's here. So we got we have 2 of the 6 leadership council firms referring to us, and then we just got a deal with Probate Pro to basically do a joint venture with them. So we have 10,000 coming probably in the next 2 years. So we've been able to execute a volatile staffing strategy with law students.
Yeah.
2 L's and 3 L's at Campbell. I mean, they kill it. They're awesome.
That's gonna be some bank for you once those things settle.
Jesus. It will. It's gonna be hell while we're getting them out there. But
yeah. Oh man, that's killer.
Yeah, it's an interesting legal nuance because you can actually open an estate in Onslow County, North Carolina, where Camp Lejeune is located, even if the person lived in Florida, even if the person lived in Texas. If they never had an estate open in any other jurisdiction, they can file just for the Camp Lejeune matter, original jurisdiction in Onslow County. So we're getting not just North Carolina cases. It's predominantly North Carolina, but we're getting a ton from other states.
Wow. Great job.
It's a golden unicorn opportunity. It's never, I'm not banking on anything. It's not changing the way our firm operates. It is a very specific opportunity that we will seize and then we will move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the deal before you opened your firm?
I just worked for 2 other law firms. I started out of law school in Cary. So I'm in Cary, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Raleigh. It's CRY. They call it the containment area for relocated Yankees. So it's predominantly Midwesterners and Northeasterners. And there's a lot of California transplants too, because this is the Silicon Valley of the East. So a lot of the Silicon Valley companies have East Coast campuses here because of the research triangle. So UNC, Duke, and NC State all have solid engineering programs that produce software developers and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of companies have placed a presence here to be able to siphon that talent. But right out of law school, I started working with a general practice firm. It was basically two cousins. That one of them did transactional law, the other one did insurance defense litigation. And so for the first couple of years, I did a little bit of everything. So I've tried cases, I've picked juries, I've disqualified experts, and all this kind of stuff helps a lot when we're talking about asset protection. I can actually speak from experience on what lawsuits look like and how the defense side reacts to insurance policies and carriers and all this kind of stuff. But it was not conducive to having kids. And so when my firstborn was born, this was October of 2014, the partners allowed me to pivot away from litigation and into transactional. So I did mostly real estate, estate planning, and business. And then I left that firm to join another firm that did exclusively transactional, just business and estate planning. And then I was there for about a year and a half, had a compensation conversation that didn't go the way that I wanted it to. And then started my own firm. And then that's it.
So it was just you when you started?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, with a wife who was staying home with our 3 and 1 year old, almost 4 and 2 year old. No income. I had about 15 grand in the bank, but I'd always been good at marketing and sales. So
I was going to ask you that.
Great referral pipeline. At the time, a lot of financial advisors, CPAs, bankers, other lawyers who had always referred me business, at my prior firms. And that never went anywhere. Month 1, we did 30 grand and never did less than that.
Dude, great job.
It was a great start. And then started hiring about 6 months later.
Yeah. When we started, we had just moved to Florida. We moved here in July 2019. And she took the bar in March of 2020. And literally the next day is when, the shit hit the fan with COVID. And we knew 3 people here at the time that she took the bar. So So yeah, we had so she opened the practice May of 2020, and yeah, we just posted for free. Yeah, we had like 15 grand in the bank too, right about that amount. And
it's good though. It's that hustle underbelly.
yes,
Right? It's that you can't let it fail. Like literally everything you have power to muster is going to be at that ends.
you know what? I don't know if it's something sick in me or what, but I love that feeling, right? Like last week,
It's been a while.
yeah, yeah, it has been a while. But I get it. Last week, okay, our income, we were off for almost 2 days, right? We track our income on a weekly basis, right? We're always evaluating. We evaluate it daily, but weekly is like the real metric that we use. And we were down. Our income was down last week, and it fucking drove me nuts. I was, just like, okay, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? Right? And it's like, but it's still in a high range. It's not like we're not paying the bills or anything. It's everything's still all good, but it needs to keep going up. Is my viewpoint.
Yeah, I think you will sleep a lot better at night when you realize none of this is linear, not for long. It's you're never going to get consistent incremental growth. There's always these little chop points where you're like, shit. But like for instance, like this year was underperforming relative to prior years in terms of percentage of growth. We went from 4 in 23 to we'll do about 4.8 this year, which is only about 20% growth. Prior year was 68%. Prior year was 54%. Prior year was 50%. Like big jumps every single year. And you start realizing like, well, you can't really sustain that.
No,
like,
no, 20% is fantastic. Right.
Yeah. And that's where we aim now is sort of saying, well, you start realizing the return on incremental tweaks is so much more substantial when you're smaller too. Like you can't change one question in intake and have it double or triple your flow through rate. It's going to have like a 2 or 5% tweak now versus just even having an intake function going from no intake to intake is going to have a substantial increase in the net flow through, or at least the quality, right? Your conversion ratios, number of clients, that kind of thing, as opposed to, people wasting time. That incremental tweak having outsized return is gone. Like it doesn't happen in any meaningful way anymore. The biggest lever now is pricing, in terms of impact against the net. So but we're at the point, we have a leadership team. So that took a ton of effort. It really chunked down the profit margin relative to prior years, but it is absolutely necessary. I could not even imagine going through this past year without a leadership team.
Yeah.
40 people, like, geez.
No freaking
way.
Yeah, we have a leadership team right now. It's myself, Stephanie, right? I'm over administration and marketing and HR, all that stuff, planning. Stephanie's the COO. She's, overseeing production and quality control. And then Ashley's the COO or the CEO. But we're moving Stephanie. She's not an attorney. She's really good at sales. So we're moving her over to that executive position to manage all revenue. And then we just had a conversation with a woman yesterday who used to work with us, and we're like, look, we need you to come be our COO. So we're going to pay her a lot of money, but it's like you have to have that team, right? It's like I don't see how.
Once you put those positions in, then you'll have a leadership team. You have what's called a bifurcated second in command role.
Right. You're totally like
6 people, right? And so they all have separate teams, separate divisions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like the smallest team is 5, right? So each person manages at least 5 people. But those are in those inflection points where you sort of hit these ceilings. You're like, okay, you can't go further because you don't have capacity to have more direct reports. You can't be like, okay, yes, bring more people on and they'll talk to me and I'll lead them through the day. It's like, okay, no, I got to promote somebody or bring somebody new on to actually manage their entire function. And then you become an entirely different law firm owner. Like, this was the growth year for all things personal and not so much from a, revenue profitability.
Yeah. We have a whole organizing board that's huge. It's posted up in our hallway. right? We have Division 1 is HR, Division 2 is sales and marketing, Division 3 is finance, Division 4 is production, legal work, 5 is quality control, and Division 6 is, PR. We don't have anyone who's the head of those divisions, but that's the plan, right? So we have what's that? Yeah, it's me right now. Yeah,
That's
right. Yeah. But that's what you have to do when, you have to hold it from above, you hold the hat from above until you get someone underneath of you. But,
well, that's the hardest part, is knowing when to flip the lever. What's knowing when, like, okay, we're at this threshold where we have to have a leader in this role, because there's never a right time. It's just, when are you willing to make the exchange of less profit for more capacity? Can you make it another month? Can you make it another year? What's more important?
Yep.
And now that's been a lot of our decisions now, is basically buying back time.
Right. Right. But it always works out in the long run. It's always profitable.
Well, but that's the benefit, though, of, I think what I see is a big problem in law firm owners trying to scale is a lack of financial controls. So it's a lot of shooting from the hip. Like, a lot of their choices are based on, like, okay, what's in my operating account? Instead of, like, what's the cash flow statement look like? What does my lead count look like? All these other things that make up total revenue. They don't have adequate capital reserves. Like, they're not sitting on 3 months expenses. They don't have a line of credit, like all these different things. Those all give you a ton of resilience in shaky times to be able to say, yes, let's bring on that $150,000, $200,000 COO, because we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Even because inevitably you get into this position where your cash flow crunch happens right after you make that big purchase. And then that's where your mettle is shown, right? It's how well did you prepare? It's like, you're in Florida. How well did you reinforce your home for hurricanes? Yep. Well, it doesn't matter once the hurricane's already there, it's done. So it's all this, like, pre-work. It's all this foundational structuring that so many people blow through, because they like big checks. They like to buy, nice cars, and they like to fly first class everywhere. And it's a lifestyle choice over a long-term sustainability choice.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't make much money the first year. We didn't make much money, but even the second year, we really didn't. We just kept reinvesting into it, hiring people and putting more towards marketing and all that. Yeah. But yeah, from the attorney, what you said, that's definitely what I've observed with a lot of attorneys I've talked with, is, the unwillingness to pull back their own pay, right, to invest into the business, and which ultimately grows it, right? So it's just a little bit nearsighted. Well,
or like this big disconnect of, once it's been distributed, it can't be utilized again. Like, a lot of our profit goes into my brokerage account, to be invested in the stock market and have passive growth over time. But, like, it's not like it has to stay there. Like, if I needed to pull some of that back, I could, but there's, like, this cognitive disconnect of, once I've made a profit distribution, it cannot be retained. It can't be pulled back or reinvested as a capital contribution or paid for marketing expenses or whatever directly, which is ridiculous. Like, most law firms should not be sitting on massive cash reserves in their corporate name just in case they get sued. But just because it's held in your personal name doesn't mean it's not accessible. But a lot of people, it's they only know what they've seen. It's kind of like growing up in a small town. You get this, like, bubble mentality. Like, you don't know what's outside the town or what's possible, because everybody works at the grocery store or the manufacturing plant or whatever. That's like the small town I grew up in. There's so many of my friends from high school still there, because they never took the time to explore outside the bubble or even be exposed to outside the bubble. So a lot of law firm owners, that's their kryptonite, is they get so insulated by their reality that they can't fathom there being something different, or I'm so different. I'm a special unicorn. It won't work for me that way. Like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Fun times. Right. What was your first hire?
Legal assistant, who is actually now my director of ops. So it's one of those, talking about unicorns, one of those opportunities where I was truly able to promote somebody up to a meaningful leadership role. But her name's Maggie. She was a part-time legal assistant coming back from, time being a stay-at-home mom. And so we've actually had a ton of success in that route, bringing successful women back into the workforce in a meaningful and flexible role. So the ability to kind of, work from home or work from the office, but that really did meaningful stuff in corporate America, and then kind of took a step back to be mom, or to be the flexible parent that they still wanted to be flexible, but still do something meaningful. So Maggie was our first example of that. She started as part-time. So I had a client services person and a legal assistant, both working part-time, but offset hours, so that they could sort of triage inbound communication. And then probably 2 years later, she went full-time, went from legal assistant to client relations manager to operations manager, then operations manager, director of ops. But she has a SHRM certification. She took 2 different certifications through the ALA for finance and HR. She goes to law firm consulting stuff with me. I just took her to Vegas for Alex Ramosi thing. She'll come to Denver in January for 8-figure firm. I mean, she comes with a bunch of stuff. So she's learning a ton outside and inside the office.
Mm-hmm. How long you been with 8-figure firm?
2 years, a little over 2 years.
Nice. Helped out a lot?
Yeah. That group is buying my way into bigger rooms.
Okay.
Right. So I get less from like a coaching standpoint. I'm not learning new stuff. Right. I started with how to manage a small law firm about 9 months into starting my firm. It was July of 19, and it was with them for 4 or 5 years. But they stopped being helpful at about 1.5, 2 million. And so a lot of it has been non-industry specific coaching. I've done a lot with Alex Ramosi over the last 4 months. But with 8-figure firm, it's a lot of multi 8-figure law firms. So it's expanding my bubble, right? It's basically getting exposure to, they're not estate planning law firms. We're one of the biggest estate planning law firms that I've come in contact with. Yep. But it's like immigration, criminal, personal injury, that they've got a lot of the same problems. Once you get to 3-4 million, it's all people problems now. Like you don't have a ton of finance, marketing. Like marketing becomes a problem with scaling, like adding new channels and staying efficient all the way up. But it's all people, like from 3 to 6, it's all people.
Yeah. And
so that's fluent across all practice areas. And so I can get into rooms. I'm actually presenting on in this next one is marketing. I own a marketing company that does Facebook advertising for estate planning lawyers for webinars and seminars. So I'm doing a presentation to the group in Denver in January on that.
Awesome. What's that called? Discovery
Legal Marketing.
Okay.
Started that in April of 21 as well, along with Planwell.
Nice.
We work with about 50 law firm owners across the United States doing their Facebook campaigns.
Killer. That's a busy day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do a ton on that business. So I know a ton about it because that's how it's probably 1/3 of our revenue is from seminars and webinars. But so it's a lot of it's sort of a hybrid marketing coaching type opportunity. We're like one of the only marketing companies that actually coaches completion and ops on the back end. So a lot of our clients will get, coaching on ops, on how to actually perform the actual seminars and webinars, but to also convert leads to intake to sales, all this kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more of a value add for these different law firms.
Yeah, that's a good service.
We're also month to month. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't convert, you're not staying. But we have a low churn. So it's working.
Yeah. How many guys you got working there?
8.
Okay.
A lot of contractors.
Yeah. That's the biggest. One of the biggest issues I've seen with other attorneys, smaller firms, is the sales and intake process.
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't want to be salespeople.
Well, and a lot of them don't understand that those are spectrums that are meant to be modified. Like they're meant to be little flips and friction points. Like you're meant to change that over time. It's not meant to be like, I have an intake function, and this is how the intake function will always act. It's supposed to shift as you increase and decrease flow. And so you end up having these like rude awakenings when people get to like 1 million, 1.5 million, where they're like, oh my God, our call volume is crazy and our consultation numbers are insane and I can't handle all of it. Are you actually screening in your intake? Are you just setting, right? And so a lot of people don't understand the difference between screening and setting, or like what a sales meeting is even supposed to look like, or and it's, you can always say, well, they don't teach you that in law school. Well, right. But they don't teach you a ton of shit in law school, but you just go find it. You just figure it out, right? You just go, pay somebody to teach you or read a book or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I see it a ton. I do some coaching through a group I have called Elite Planner. And, a lot of it is like VIP day type drill down into your stuff and give you kind of troubleshooting stuff. And categorically, it's a problem with everybody.
Yeah.
Your intake sucks. Or it's a lackluster effort at intake, or there's no call to action in their sales meeting. It's, well, this is what it looks like. Let me know when we want to move forward. And then they just like send an invoice, and then they just hope that the client's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm super committed to this process. I can't wait to pay your invoice, because that's how life works with any other transaction, let alone a multi-$1,000 transaction.
Right.
But like internally, we do sales meetings every single week, retraining. We're going to increase that to daily, because we really need, reps and role playing and all this kind of stuff. And, but we use attorneys. So, I mean, we've done almost 5 million on the back of attorneys.
Oh,
so it's
all your consults are attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Have you considered getting non-attorney sales?
Yeah. And, I guess 3 competitors in my market do non-attorneys. And so that's like my fiduciary, fee only fiduciary RIA. I can crap all over them for not using attorneys, because it's all about how you spin it, right?
Yep.
You're in control of your unique value proposition, however you want to express it to the client. But as long as you frame it as valuable to them, I can very easily say, well, you're going to actually meet with an attorney at your first meeting, and they're going to be able to give you legal advice, and it's going to, it's an hour, all this kind of stuff, but we're still closing 65% with attorneys. And so, part of that is a fee screen, right? We're increasing the opportunity for conversions, for excluding people who are going to price disqualify themselves. But even when we remove the fee screen, it's still 50-60%. So it's not, we don't have attorneys that do all things. We have sales attorneys, we have production attorneys. And so we basically created the non-attorney sales role with attorneys.
Yeah. How did you decide, or how did you hire the attorney sales reps? Were they hired as sales reps? Like, this is what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people who just want to do that.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. Have you drafted an estate plan?
Myself?
Yeah.
No.
Like, even done the data entry, like just put the stuff in and run through it?
I mean, no, I haven't.
Try it out. It sucks. It's super boring. Nobody wants to do it. It's why it's hard for estate planning lawyers to keep legal assistants long. It's monotonous, redundant. It's not meaningful work. And so you'll see a lot of estate planners either outsource drafting or bring in like VAs, like Filipino VAs, to do the data entry. But the skill set of a high quality drafting attorney is almost entirely inconsistent with somebody who's good at sales, and vice versa. Like, somebody who's good at sales usually isn't like a amazing legal drafter.
Yeah.
And so we found that once we got to like 3 attorneys that did everything, like it was me and 2 others, and we all like drafted or reviewed our own stuff. After, it was legal assistant data entry, and then attorney finishing, right? So review, custom craft, that kind of stuff, and then send out to the clients. We realized that the drafting was taking about the equivalent of a full week in terms of the time from each of the 3 attorneys. It was about 10 to 15 hours per attorney per week. And so we're like, well, that's a job, right? That's 45 hours. And so we actually just started posting jobs for drafting attorney, like estate planning attorney, in the job description. It's not client facing. There's no marketing responsibility. There's no consultation responsibility. You're just going to draft. And actually, the attorney who does that for our team for estate planning lives in Tennessee. She works from home, but she's licensed in Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. And so she just pumps them out. And we work with, around, low months, probably 80 clients a month, higher months, 100, 110. So it's a decent amount of volume. But she used to do credit card collections and had to, show up in small claims in district court and basically argue with people over $100 discovery card bill.
Oh.
And so now, and she's also introverted. And so that was the worst job you could ever ask for if you're an introvert, standing up in front of everybody and like pleading your case of why this credit card should be reduced to a judgment. So she just, we pay her about $100,000 a year salary and she just kills it. And so we also have that on the probate side. We have sales attorney and a production attorney.
Huh. How did you find the sales attorney?
It's a more deliberate hiring process, right? Because you have to really gauge personality.
Yeah.
But we started realizing it's not as important that they have estate planning experience as long as they were like trainable, coachable. And so we ended up really focusing a lot more on the in-person interviews, like lunch and coffee, to be able to see how they would actually act in person. Kind of like, taking somebody out for a beer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you can connect or not on that one interaction.
Yeah, you can tell whether they're with it, whether they're sharp, witty.
Well, you also want to gauge their not just their interaction with you, because of course they're going to put their best face on for you, but like, how are they walking through the parking lot? Are they like smiling at people? Are they saying, "Hey, good morning"? That kind of. How are they talking to the cashier at the counter? That kind of stuff. I waited tables growing up. It's probably the most impactful professional experience of my life in terms of getting me to where I am today, because it forced emotional intelligence and that sort of sales underbelly to be developed. Like to be able to put your best face on with some elderly woman who's doing a split plate and complaining about the cook of her steak and, could never be happy. You still have to be super like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll be right back with it. I'll let the chef know, all this kind of stuff. And so it was that, emotional intelligence. It was that empathy. It was that active listening. You can obviously look at that from a resume standpoint. So like, what did you do in high school? Like, what did you do in college? Right? Did you bartend? Did you wait tables? You work retail? Like those sort of things.
That's really interesting.
But then you actually see it in real time now, right? So yes, you could work whatever you want, in high school, but how is it manifested now? And so, if it's at a restaurant that has a waiter, how are they treating the waiter? How much did they tip? That kind of stuff. And then it's multiple interviews. It's getting different people's perspectives, but it's also just understanding that it's okay to cut people loose if they're not a good fit, because they'll be a good fit somewhere else.
Yeah. We've done really well at that recently, cutting them loose quick when we noticed.
I think I saw a post. You're like 1/3 success rate.
Yeah.
That's tough. We're not that bad. We're like probably 2/3, maybe 70%.
Yeah.
But maybe just because we're a little bit more deliberate now.
Possibly. Yeah. Yeah. That could be true. You guys probably are a bit more deliberate than I am.
Well, we kind of have to be at this size because every new body is like a footprint constraint, and they interact with so many more people. And, a lot of this is culture fit now and core value match and that sort of thing. And, but it's also just a lot of lessons learned along the way. We have a low attrition rate, but we have attrition. I mean, people leave, they're asked to leave or they leave on their own, but it's not high. Which is good, obviously, but there's been times where we've let people stay for longer than necessary because they're nice. People like them.
Right.
And that's maybe been an Achilles heel we've had to try to deal with.
Yeah. We let go of a woman. We kept her way too long. She was super sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Super sweet. She didn't get a lot of work done, super slow, but it was like, we talk about it at our weekly meetings, like, she's not cutting it. She'd been with us for like a year. And we're like, fuck. Finally, we had to do it. Had to. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of find ourselves in that position often as well, right? Where your heart is saying one thing and your brain is saying the other, and it's like, we just came off the holidays and all this kind of stuff. It's the last thing you want to do is feel like, hey, Merry Christmas, bye.
Right.
Happy New Year somewhere else. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's sort of the necessary part of this. And every time we get into that position, I've got a picture of my kids on my phone as my background, and it's just them or her, them or him, right? Who do I care more about? Because if I keep somebody who isn't supposed to be here, it's money out of my pocket.
Right. And the time and energy, right? You're putting attention on that shit. And
well, it's showing everybody else what you're willing to tolerate and prioritize too. Is if you're not willing to cut, toxic or cancerous people, even if they're very nice, if they're just becoming a liability in their lack of production and their lack of productivity, then that's not any better.
Yeah, we realized that with this woman I was referring to, is junior staff were coming to us and like, look, she's not getting her work done, she's not competent.
Mm-hmm.
And it finally got to the point where I was like, holy shit, we're keeping her around, but it's having a cult. It's now it's having, we look bad, right? It looked like we're messing with the culture here, and
it erodes their confidence in you too. It's hampering to your leadership.
Exactly.
That's tough. Yeah. We started realizing we treat it a lot more like a football team now. Like from like a salary cap perspective, like our labor margin needs to be X. And so it means that we have X amount to pay for the entire team. And that's going to be some A players. It's going to be some C players. And because you can't have perfect in everything, but it also is, usually we have this thing called waivers where if you don't make the cut, you're gone. And they don't wait till the end of the season. Like, I'm a big Lions fan. They've been the king of the freaking waivers this season because they have all these injuries on the defense side. They don't think twice to cut somebody loose when somebody's coming back off of IR. Like, they got two guys coming back. They play the 49ers tonight. They got two guys coming back from injury reserves. So they had to free up 2 roster slots. Well, sorry, guys. I know you played the last couple of weeks, but we got to let you go.
Yeah. Should they even play their starters this week?
Well, that's the thing is they're still neck and neck with the Vikings for the number 1 seed.
But I think even if they lose tonight, it's still
they can still get it if they win against the Vikings.
Yeah. So this should almost be like an off. They should
bye week.
Yeah.
Well, the rate of their injuries, they should be wise to do that. But Dan Campbell is probably going to go on 4th down and everything and put all the starters in.
They got to be. What happened? Am I there?
Yeah, I don't know if it's me or you.
Yeah, I kind of went. My screen went a little blue there for a second.
Oh, good.
I was saying you got to love this year. I'm an Eagles fan. So we might be. Hopefully, we'll be seeing each other.
Are you from Pennsylvania?
South Jersey.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah.
There's some solid NFC teams this year. Like the Vikings are legit too. They were pegged at a 6.5 win over under in the preseason, and then Sam Darnold comes out of nowhere and just lights it up.
I'm still on
a 1 year, $10 million deal. Jared Goff just signed a $250 million extension. It's crazy.
I'm still not sold on them.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of weakness, but they've been stringing it together.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, Lions beat them once, but
it was a close one.
It was a come from behind, but we'll see. But they get home field advantage this time. But no, I took my oldest just turned 10 in October, and we took them up to Michigan, to Detroit. We went to the Michigan State game at the Big House on Saturday, the 26th, and then went to see the Lions play the Titans at home the next day. So it's sort of like a football doubleheader.
Oh, that's
they were both wins. So Michigan won by a touchdown, and then that was one of the blowout wins. It was like 52-14 or something like that over the Titans.
Yeah, that's a great experience as a 10-year-old.
Yeah, we were actually going to fly up this weekend, but it's a Sunday night 8:30 game. It's like, probably not. Not a good way to start the new year, coming back at midnight on the Sunday before Monday. But, I don't know.
Get back to the attorney salespeople. How do you find them?
Yeah, I mean, and this is another inflection point that I think a lot of law firms don't hit for a while, given or depending on their market. But we, to this point, have just done job ads. Like Wise Hire is the platform we've used. Wise Hire is like a disseminator platform or an aggregator where they post across all the platforms, but they also include what's called a disc profile, like the personality behavioral disc profile, and then it will rank candidates for you for whoever applies. But applicants have gone down over the last couple of years, like the net number of qualified applicants per posting. And so one of the takeaways from Vegas, the Vegas trip we just went on, was to start treating hiring like marketing, to go get it, like to not just sort of wait for people to come get you. But, it's almost like our presentation marketing. We go into a community and do a seminar and we get leads from that. Like from a hiring perspective, it's doing cold outreach. It's basically doing like the tried and true, like reach out to somebody who is already employed, who you actually do want to hire, and then say, hey, I know you're not looking for anything, but do you know any estate planning attorneys who are looking for an opportunity doing X, Y, and Z? It pays A, B, C, whatever. The whole point is for them to say, yeah, actually, I'm interested. But if they're not interested, then it doesn't look like you're trying to sell somebody who's not interested, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that cold personal outreach.
I like that. And you have someone in HR doing that for you?
For the attorneys, it's me. And it's trying to leverage the connections that I already have. So it'll be essentially first layer is the personal first connection people, the people I'm connected with who I know are estate planning attorneys, right? Who would be, a good fit. Then it would be the second connection, which is connections of connections and so on and so forth. For everything else, it's not me. It's Maggie, our director of ops.
Okay. You're doing this through LinkedIn?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we are doing the what do they call it? It's a premium, like Sales Navigator or whatever it's called, where you can do the cold outreach and not get dinged for it. I don't need it for the first connections, but anything more remote than a personal connection, you have to have the premium.
Yeah. Are you like constantly hiring?
Pretty much. I mean, we're never not hiring. It's just a matter of whether we would pull the trigger immediately on a position or not. But throughout the firm, there's always an opening. I mean, we're never not hiring.
Yeah.
Whether it's a paralegal or a marketing person, intake, I mean, we're always adding people, it seems. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's replacing people. Like we had to let a legal assistant go in the summer. This particular person is why we ask about high school employment now. I think I posted this in your group where we don't hire anybody who didn't work in high school. So like this specific person, I was on the probate side, and she made some filings in our e-filing system without getting approvals. Like didn't even see an attorney at all, just filed it. But then noticed that it was in the wrong county, big issue. And then instead of telling anybody about it, the pleadings in North Carolina are set by the state. They're called AOC forms, Administrative Office of the Courts. And the opening pleadings are 2 pages. The front page is more informative, like the person who died, the person who's applying, like next of kin, all this kind of stuff. And the second page is where the signature is and where initial assets would be. It's called a preliminary inventory. And so she just switched out the front page with a PDF editor and put a new one in with a different county and then submitted it. And like we caught it because she entered 2 notice of creditor filings. So she actually ran a paper ad for a probate matter in the wrong county and then ran it again in the right county.
Oh my God.
And it came up because we're like, oh, what did you enter this expense? Well, no, I ran it in the wrong county. Okay. So we let her go. She's like 24. Her dad called me that night.
Wow.
Yeah. Like saying,
wow.
Oh, you sure you want to let her go? It's like, yeah. Not acceptable, buddy. Like, come to find out, like, mom and dad did everything for her.
Yeah.
She was the youngest, never required to work, went to school in another state, all this kind of stuff. This was her second law job. But yeah, I don't know. It's just that really rubbed me the wrong way. And that is a very specific generational problem.
Yeah.
Like we don't have that with Gen X's and millennials and boomers. We only have that with Gen Z and younger. So
now you have the requirement that they must have worked during high school.
That's right. And you probably, they need to have a 19 and their date of birth.
Right.
Probably not. That's not 100% across the board, but that's been the trend for sure.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. But this is all, I think when you start hiring people, you start looking for like warm bodies, right? You start, part of this is like the expense part. You sort of, I don't know if I can afford it. So I'm going to bring in somebody young and I can train them and they're going to do great. And it's going to be this great outcome, best of both worlds. And it's never that, because they're C's at best. You realize that they actually take more time than you're saving, because you're continuously having to answer questions and train, all this kind of stuff. And I feel like everybody knows this lesson intuitively, but they have to learn it experientially in order for it to actually like sit in. Is when you pay more for a person to join your team, like the ad, you get higher quality people, because people know what they're worth.
Yeah.
And so the people who respond to your $35,000 salary, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. You know what I did? I haven't done it. I did it with almost everyone. Yeah, almost everyone. When I found someone that I was like really impressed with, right? We'd have a salary range, and I was like, this person's going to be awesome, right? I'd ask them, okay, what do you want to get paid? They say 70,000. So I say, okay, we're going to pay you 75,000. I think you're worth even more than that. And and every single one of them is still with us. And it just set it off really the foot off good, that they like knew that we valued them. Yeah.
If it works, it works. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have
you calculated your labor ratios? Like how much of your budget goes to labor?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have the numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head though. Yeah.
This is when it starts becoming a problem.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's more than it should be.
Well, you start having to pay the sins of the immature entrepreneur that you were at the beginning, because no law firm owner has a systematic HR process with like hiring paths, consistent salary ranges, all this kind of stuff, promotion frameworks, merit and annual cost of living adjustments, that kind of stuff. Nobody has that in place when they start hiring. So they're always like fast and loose with promotions and raises.
Yeah.
So like, oh, you've done so great, I'm going to increase your salary by $5,000, or I'm going to give you a 10% increase. And that's all great, because at the beginning, your profit margin is like 50, 60%, right? So you're like not thinking twice, because, there's always more money. But then you get to, the labor ratio is 45%. And so just came up and said, hey, I didn't get a raise this year. And you have to explain the track record of, okay, well, you've also had a 45% increase over the last 3 years, which is unheard of in every market and in every industry. So we have to do some corrective adjustments to these wages by not giving you, consistent raises over the next couple of years. They're like, oh, okay. And it's, they understand it, but they don't, because it's always what have you done for me lately? It's always, how has this benefited me over the last year? Not how has it benefited me over the last 4 years? Mm-hmm. And so it's always about precedent. And that's where they didn't teach me this in law school, really comes to bite you in the ass, is when your margin gets a little tighter, you start realizing like, they still want raises no matter what, because they're still doing the job that I hired them to do, and they're still hitting the KPIs in the same way that I want them to. And so it's like, I'm still making the same amount that I did last year, but I'm doing more this year. Well, you're not doing more, you're doing it longer. But now we basically are like, you get annual cost of living adjustment, and there are merit raises when you bring more value to the firm. That's it. Otherwise,
what do you do? How do you define the merit raises?
It's basically like if you can bill more, if you can sell more, if you can produce net new revenue. Now, that can happen because of a promotion to a higher paying role, like from legal assistant to paralegal on the probate side. It can happen because of an increase in sales conversion rate from 50 to 60, 60 to 70, that kind of thing. It's all just net new revenue. But is it more valuable to the firm is there an exchange of value happening? Or is your input to our firm the same as it was last year? Well, then the entire upside is just cost of living, 3.5%, depending on the year. And that's effectively across the board. So that's the expectation we've set now, is unless there's net value improvement to the firm, we're making more having you on our team, you get a cost of living adjustment. Now, we across the board are salary plus bonus. Like everybody on our team gets a bonus every quarter. Like I just did 56,000 in bonuses for the fourth quarter. So we pay probably about $250,000 total throughout the year in bonuses. But that's the expectation. So it's you're doing your job, hitting a KPI gets a bonus. If we exceed the KPI, then we increase the bonus, right? But the expectation, and I set this with everybody before they are hired, is I can't reach into your paycheck and pull W-2 wages back if you don't do the job that I hired you to do. I can put you on a PIP and put you on a leash that leads to your firing, but there isn't a way for me to recall wages. And so the bonus is sort of this, if you do your job, it's expected. It varies from 500 to probably the highest standard one is 3,500, something like that, versus attorney sales bonuses. Those are higher. Those are usually between 5 and 15,000 per quarter. If they don't hit the metric, or if they're on a performance improvement plan, then they don't get the bonus. So it's our way of clawing it back by basically saying you didn't meet expectations, you didn't fulfill your job role. So it's your responsibility was X, you didn't hit it, and so there's no bonus. And then if we hit 2 quarters, no bonus, then
yeah, that's smart. So it's all based on their KPIs.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where the leadership team comes in handy, because I can't keep track of all that.
Right.
For 40 people.
No.
42 now. So they all have, each team leader has a team-based KPI that we're tracking from a performance standpoint to sort of spot check problems. So like estate planning has several time-based KPIs that we want to hit, like drafts produced in 7 days, drafts delivered to client within 21 days, total cycle time 35 days. So conversion to signing 35 days. And those are not performance metrics where it like dictates some sort of compensation metric. It's a red flag metric. It's basically saying, is there a process issue, some sort of availability or capacity or whatever? Like right now, we're down 2 attorneys. Like I'm actively hiring 2 sales attorneys. And so we have a like review meeting constraint. We don't have availability to meet with people on a tight enough timeline to be able to meet this 35-day cycle time goal. So it's getting out to like 50 days. It hasn't been like a complaint-based problem, but it's a production problem for us in terms of like how many cases we can handle. And so you start realizing like nothing is in isolation. Everything has a cascading impact in other areas, other departments. But or you look at probate, they have like a cycle time too, but it's based on the duration of a probate matter, from time to opening, time to inventory filing, time to close, all this kind of stuff. They're all time-based KPIs where we're trying to align with court deadlines. We're trying to align with expectations we're setting with the clients, that kind of stuff. And then individually, they have like billable hour KPIs. Like I need 26 and a half hours from everybody who's working full time. That's a 65% realization rate. I need, for the openings legal assistant, I need drafts prepared within 7 days, like those sorts of things. So it's going to be a metric that's very objective. It's easy to quantify. We have the data source already teed up. We can pull it up at any moment, and everybody knows about it. So it's something that's within their control. It's something that we gauge from a capacity standpoint too. So if people can't hit 26 and a half hours because they don't have enough work, it means we have too much capacity, right? We don't have enough case volume. That has never been a problem. We're like 4 to 6 weeks out on work right now for the probate side. Like if anything, I need to hire more paralegals, more attorneys. But it's that awareness of metrics across the board that drives the ship in terms of operations and where we're going, our hiring priorities, constraints, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We kind of operate under the same way. Same thing with deadlines, right? We have all them delineated out with estate planning and probate, pay bonuses on them. We pay them bi-weekly bonuses rather than quarterly. Probably pay them a lot for their
We just say
bonuses.
quarterly so that people can't just muff it. Like they can't be like, I had a really good 1 month and blasted the KPI and then took the next month off. So it's the more you include in it, the harder it is to muff it. But I don't know if there's like a right way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
You learn by doing, right? It's all trial and error.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. Jesus. It's wild. It's wild. So your goal is to get up to 4.8 this year? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we already did it. Yeah, we crossed that line.
Oh, I thought you were talking about for 25.
Oh no, for 25 it's 6.1.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Killer.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, we're going to turn the gas up on Facebook more. So we're going to start doing 20 to 30 new ad sequences a week that are going to be video ads. Like right now, we've done almost exclusively static creative, like photos, or like text on blue background kind of thing. Like, wait, a will doesn't keep me on a probate, like that kind of thing. And so we'll start mix and matching like hooks and bodies. So I'll record like 5 hooks, 5 bodies, and then do cross combination and create 25 ads so that they're all pairing against each other, and then run them, and then promote the winners and call the losers, and then do new ones every week.
You're running? Do you run Google ads too?
We do LSA. We haven't ever. We do some probate AdWords, but we've just always found Google ads on the estate planning side produce LegalZoom leads. They don't produce quality leads, not premium. So, and we've tested a lot of ways to do it, and it just always seems to be the case. We also don't do LSA for estate planning for the same reason. We do LSA for probate, and it's probably the highest performing channel for probate leads.
LSA is, huh?
Yeah, and we actually have 4 LSA listings. We had 4 at one point. We actually did a separate LSA account for each of our 4 offices, and we shut down 3 of them and then just kept the best one and made it statewide probate. And so that's been a killer. Most of our clients are out-of-state executors, so they don't care that we're not in Union County or Hickory or whatever. But that produces probably 15 consults a week at an average case value of $7 to 10 grand.
Yeah,
it's pretty high performing for $40 leads, something like that. It's a pretty solid, efficient platform. It just sucks when it comes to planning. Like all the leads we ever got for planning were garbage.
Yeah, we did LSA for estate planning, and it was awful. Yeah. Absolutely awful. The only thing we do is postcards for estate planning. We don't do any digital ads.
That's postcards is something we're adding in 25. We've never done it at all. Never tried it. Never tested it. Nothing. We get like 1/3 of our clients from Google, 1/3 from referral, and 1/3 from presentations, like Facebook driven. We do 8 presentations a month, 4 in person, 4 webinars. We're going to up that to 12 in the first quarter and increase from there.
So tell me that one more time.
We do 4 in-person seminars and 4 webinars every month. Okay. So 8, and we're going to increase that to 12. We're also going to expand our webinar to statewide, and then we're going to start dropping into different metro areas and doing effectively like pop-ups where we run ads in Charlotte, for instance. I don't have an office in Charlotte, but I have a Regis membership that's unlimited use of any office in the entire United States for like $420 a month. So we're going to schedule presentations in Charlotte over 1 to 2 days, 2 to 4 presentations, depending on the time of year. Drive down, knock them out, come back the next week and take all the consultations that book from that in a Regis office over 1 to 2 days. And then we're going to take the webinar sequences, which are all automated now, like nobody shows up for them. We have somebody from our team just answering questions in the chat, but it's a webinar recording I made like a year ago. We're going to do that statewide and then basically give people the option, if they're not in our immediate metro area, to either book something like a month out and then just stack consults in another city like Asheville, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, whatever. and then basically say, well, we're going to be there next month. Or if you don't want to wait, you can do a virtual consultation, and then we'll do your signing next month or whatever. And then just deploy mobile notaries for all the remote signings.
Yeah.
That's a big scale operation for us for 2025.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That sounds really really smart.
Well, we initially were trying to do like Edward Jones meets fiduciary family office, which would be like law firm, financial advisor in each office and like 20 offices across the state, like brick and mortar, 3-year leases, 5-year leases, whatever. And I went to this mastermind with Alex Ramosi, and he's like, you shouldn't do that. That's a way too big of an overlay. It's way too much, leverage and leases and all this kind of stuff. It's like, test it first, right? Go do your pop-up, go do your presentations, get traction, rotate quarterly, like only go to Charlotte once a quarter, only go to Winston once a quarter, that kind of thing. And then go from there. And, once you've established traction and name recognition in the market, then sign your lease and open a space.
Yeah.
So a lot of our move for 25 is branding. It's a lot more establishing us as the go-to. We're already the top rated estate planning firm in North Carolina, so we really lead into that. We have really leveraged some billboard branding, like we're in, not billboards, they're sports placements and airport. So if you ever fly into Raleigh, you check a bag, you're going to see my face on the baggage claim ads. We get a ton of traction for that. We get a ton of existing clients who are like, hey, Paul, I saw you at the airport, like that kind of thing. It's like name recognition, top of mind awareness kind of thing. But a lot of our branding operations is going to go to Facebook, like really probably spending 30,000, 40,000 a month on ad spend.
On Facebook. Yeah. Yeah, we got to do that.
I know a
guy. Our guy's really good. I've pushed him off from doing anything on Facebook just because we weren't successful at it when we first started. But and the postcards are so big for us.
Yeah, but when do you think it's going to go away?
The postcards?
Yeah, because you keep sending the same one, don't you?
Yeah.
How big is Clearwater?
We send to the whole county.
How big is your county?
I don't know. Pretty big. Our mailing list right now is, I think, about 150,000 people.
And you send how many units a month?
60,000.
So you're hitting everybody like every other month.
Yeah. Yeah. And we get calls from people who are like, we've been getting your postcard for the last year.
What does that cost you to do 60,000?
It is, it's about 10 cents to printing and handling, and then postage, I think it's at about 38. So we're at about 48 cents a piece.
So you're about 29,000
a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to change it though. Actually, we're going to build out here. We're bursting at the seams in the place, but the spot next to us is opened up. I think we're going to build out a seminar room there.
How big is your space now?
4,500.
Okay. Yeah. Ours is 4,000. We have 4 offices though, so it's spread out, but
right. Yeah. We're bursting at the seams here. But we have not been successful with seminar. We've done 3 seminars. That's it.
Yeah.
3 seminars. And I see other people crushing it with seminars. So yeah, that's another big plan this year, is to actually do seminars and be successful with them. They've been for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but we don't ever host them at our own office. We always do senior centers and hotels. And it's largely, obviously, I have a ton of data to look at when it comes to other clients, other estate planners across the United States, 50 of them. Unless you're in a rural area, there's some hesitance to attending a presentation at the attorney's office, because there's association with sales, right? You're sort of like going into the lion's den, right? And so that actually works fine in a rural area because there aren't a ton of options. You can do it at the diner, right? It's probably not gonna work. But where I've seen it work in a lot of metro areas, and even in like Clearwater, I wouldn't say that's not a metro, right? 150 for the county. We have about 175,000 in the town of Cary, right? So it's pretty similar, probably demographics, but restaurants, if you do like a wine and wills format where you're sort of saying like, we're going to, do a tasting, 3 different wines, you're going to learn more about, that's obviously going to increase your net flow through because they're going to be inebriated. They're going to be like, yeah, I'm ready. Or community colleges, community centers, senior centers, that kind of stuff, where it's sort of like neutral territory. But then you're paying venue costs that are probably going to be a lot less than, bringing that internally. Usually the clients we work with that have an internal presentation space are doing like 8 to 10 a month to basically justify that expansion. And they're bringing that type of volume from it. Like it's a seminal piece of their marketing repertoire, and they invest a ton into it in order to, they're basically saving money by having it internally. So it all depends, obviously, your price per square foot. But in terms of like office expansion, that's lease expansion too, right? You're sort of either matching the existing expiration of the lease or extending it for a longer period of time. You obviously could grow into that space, right? It's not if you only use it for a seminar or not kind of thing. It's that's a big dice roll if you haven't been actively testing seminars.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the space that's next to us is, I think it's about 4,000 square feet. We would take like a very small portion of that to be able to fit like probably 30, 40 people into it.
Mm-hmm.
But we also need a space for like meetings, right? Our weekly staff meetings, right? Right now it's like kind of a shit show here. We got nowhere to meet. We got, everyone meets once a week. We go over like business announcements and any problems. Yeah, it's just a shit show.
Yeah, the physical plant, the actual floor plans have been probably one of the hardest things for us as we've grown, because we always outpace where we expect to be. So like we're 1 year into a 5-year lease in this space. We just moved in January. It's 4,000 feet. We have 1,600 feet in Raleigh, another 1,600 in Chapel Hill, and then like 400 in Wake Forest. But we also have a hybrid work reality. So it's like hockey line shifts. So if basically everybody's in 2 or 3 days and they're basically offset. So we're able to maximize the same floor plan for twice the number of people that we otherwise could.
Yeah.
It's still, I surprise myself how much I underestimate the floor plan that we need for this. And like Class A space, so it's not cheap. It's like 27 a foot, something like that. Full service, which is nice. We don't have to worry about electric bills or whatever. But the next space over is another 3,000, but it's contiguous, but it's not convenient, right? The connection point is our boardroom, which is our main conference room. I have to knock down that wall or create like a separate entrance, like a totally separate ingress egress. It's like not awesome any way around. So.
Yeah, we've been there. Our previous building was like that we were at. It was there's a space next door, but it was kind of a shithole, and it's like, God, we're gonna have to do all this renovating just to make it, or we just put our employees in there, but then it's like, I don't want our employees in a space like that. Yeah, we luckily got this space. This is incredible. We're paying $16 a square foot. And
really? You got glass walls and a $16? Jeez.
I know. We really got lucky.
Do you think you can keep that rate on the expansion?
Yeah.
Really?
Damn. Yeah, we're talking about it right now. We just started talking about it a couple days before Christmas. And yeah.
So yeah, that's cheap, man.
I know.
That's real freaking cheap. Well, hold on. Let me do the math on that one. Shit, I wish I had that rent payment. It's like $9,300, and it's 3% escalators each year, 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is all calculated and whatnot, but yeah. So you opened in 2020, so you're almost 5 years in.
Yeah, 4.5 right now.
Yeah. And how long is that lease you're in currently?
We're 2 years into it right now. So we have 3 more left. And the new space, we can just add it to our current lease, so we wouldn't be extending it.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we signed a 4-year lease on a 2,000 square foot space that I thought we were going to be swimming in, and then COVID happened. Like I literally signed the lease February of 20, and then COVID happened, and we tripled in size that year. We're basically busting at the seams within a year, and then we had to do like what you're doing in your office, double up desks, all that kind of stuff. And we haven't done that in this office yet. That's the natural, evolution when we start squeezing. But yeah, it's tough because then you start looking at floor plans too, and nothing's perfect. You either have like all this open concept crap that nobody likes, or you lose conference rooms for executive offices or vice versa, and there's never this Goldilocks zone.
Yeah,
Tough.
it is tough. Well, I got to jump. Yeah, I got that 3:30. Dude, it was amazing talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah,
well,
man, glad you could be flexible with me and I could make it. I appreciate that.
Yeah. You're killing it. Everything you said today, I'm sure is going to help out a lot of people. Yeah, good, very good business sense. And yeah, man, keep up the good work.
Thanks, man.
We'll stay in touch.
Sounds good, man. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.
All right, see ya.
See ya.